Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you something very special for Fairfield and the surrounding area. We're here to share with you today an idea that has been long overdue for Fairfield, and that is to build a community and area civic center. This project will have an extraordinary impact on Fairfield. It will be the type of project that will encourage people to stay here, to live here in Fairfield. It'll also attract new members to this community. Our capital campaign mission in this project is charged with 3 critical tasks. They are first to present this to as many Fairfield area citizens as possible. Secondly, to educate and inform citizens regarding the project, to answer their question, to clarify misunderstandings so that people understand the project fully. We're also here to challenge people to get behind this project and to support it both through their moral and their financial support so we can make this a reality. The motivating factor, the driving force behind this project is that in Fairfield, as most of you know, there are serious limitations or deficiencies in accommodations for both large group type gathering experiences and for theater productions in this area. This project is definitely about improving the quality of life for Fairfield. This is going to be an opportunity that Fairfield citizens will be able to look forward to with a great deal of pride for years to come. The board of directors of this project is called Jefferson County Civic Center, Inc. They are a full nonprofit charitable entity. They are comprised of a 12-member board. There are a very diverse group of people on this board. There are 8 members of the traditional community, 4 members of the TM community, as well as members of the business, educational, arts communities. So it's a very, very experienced, highly capable, very dedicated board of directors. The board has its own mission, and that is to develop a multi-purpose facility, something to accommodate business and professional types of events, performing and visual arts presentations, educational and cultural opportunities, and social and community activities. Pretty much the full spectrum of large group type offerings will be here in this center. A priority of the board, something we have spent the better part of a year working at, is to do this project right the first time. We want to offer a quality facility that is reasonable and realistic in cost, and something that will serve this community for 30 to 50 years out before there has to be any renovation expansion. In terms of the organization of this facility, we're looking at truly a complex. On the one hand, it'll have a convention pavilion. On the other hand, it'll have a performing arts auditorium. The Chamber of Commerce of Fairfield will be affiliated with this project. Its mission will be to improve the business climate of Fairfield, and working with the convention pavilion will be one of their charges. They'll try to keep that pavilion busy, and they'll also provide opportunities for the other chamber members to participate in that pavilion. The Performing Arts Auditorium will be a place to house all kinds of activities, theatrical performances, musical performances, dance, as well as conferences and small conventions. Ultimately, there will be a Visual and Performing Arts Council that will become a buffer between the Performing Arts Auditorium and the Civic Center Board of Directors. This will be a group of people that are avidly interested in the arts, especially the performing arts and the visual arts, and help the board so they can govern effectively and efficiently. There will also be a Director of Operations and Management, almost a clearinghouse here for scheduling and for developing a PR program and executing it. And of course, there'll be custodians to be sure the facility is properly maintained. And overseeing the operations of this facility will be the Jefferson County Civic Center Board of Directors. It'll be a very dynamic organization. So we're talking about a civic center. And as this graphic implies, it'll be an impacting institution, definitely a haven for a wide variety of opportunities for Fairfield and the surrounding area. If we look at Jefferson County, with a population of 16,000 plus people, 432 square miles. Fairfield, centrally located with a population of 10,000 people, we can see this as an ideal location within the county for a new civic center. The nearest similar facility, although without a pavilion, will be 30 miles away in Washington, Iowa. The proposed location for this civic center has become a preeminent feature of the project. It is to be located in the downtown area of Fairfield. Rather than looking at the east or the west side of town as we were originally in the plan several years ago, we have decided to become part of downtown Fairfield Revitalization, and we will be locating in the one full block immediately to the west of the Jefferson County Courthouse. And for bearing an orientation, there's north. An item to point out in this particular slide is the issue of parking. This is an issue that has been highly thought through by the board. If the board is truly going to be impacting downtown Fairfield revitalization, then the parking issue has to be addressed very specially. This block right here will have a civic center sitting on about 2/3 of it. The rear 2/3 and the stretch along this street right here will become on-site parking, approximately 100 spaces. That will accommodate the majority of smaller group types of activities that will take place in the center. If we're going to revitalize the downtown area, we need to create traffic or energy in that part of town. So we've done some investigating. We found that if we walk out one block in every direction from this facility, we can find an additional 250 parking spaces over and above the 100 on-site spaces. If we walk out 2 blocks in every direction, we can find an additional 650 parking spaces over and above the 100 on-site parking, a total of 750 spaces for this area. Truly, this will provide an opportunity for people to park within that 2-block area, using the downtown area for parking, and providing opportunity for businesses to prosper, and even really promote some entrepreneurialism. When we further factor in that most of the larger group types of activities will be held on the weekends, say on Saturday or Sunday afternoon or Friday evening, there will not be a big conflict with a lot of parking that will go on in the area. We will also ask the Director of Operations of this facility to coordinate the scheduling with area institutions such as the churches and the courthouse to be sure that at least most conflicts of scheduling are taken care of. The Civic Center has definitely become a product of mutual planning. The business community, the arts community, the traditional community, the TM community, all working together toward common goals, something that will benefit everyone. There will not be a group that will dominate this facility. Instead, it will be shared and enjoyed by all. Obviously, a very, very special highlight of this project is the floor plan. Literally weeks and months and really several years have gone into the development of this plan, and I'll turn it over to the architect to explain the fine points of this plan.
Thank you, Gary. My name is Kelsey Mullen. I'll be walking you through the design of the building. To get your orientation, this is Main Street here, and this is Briggs Street. What we're looking at here is the first floor plan, approximately 35,000 square feet, all on one floor. What you can see here are the 2 main elements of our building. This being the theater, approximately 520 seats. This is the pavilion at 12,000 square feet. In between those 2 spaces here, you see the support spaces, as in the dressing rooms, the green room, the restrooms. Here, adjacent to the pavilion, is a kitchen, and it's a catering kitchen, not a preparation kitchen, but like a warming kitchen, so that if there are any businesses that would like to cater events that happen in the pavilion, they can bring their foods into this kitchen and cater events. Additionally, the Fairfield Art Association has a permanent home located here. They are adjacent to a workshop that is also used here in the backstage for building sets or anything related to the stage. The other permanent resident in the building is the Chamber of Commerce. They're located here, mentioned earlier, adjacent to the Pavilion, because they will have a role in what happens in the Pavilion. One of the issues in designing this building was making it as flexible as possible. You can see that in the Pavilion in that we designed it so that there can be a number of different spaces sectioned off. For example, this 600 square foot space, or another space here at 1,800 square foot, or it can be opened up completely to be a 12,000 square foot space. Flexibility was an issue in the theater. One of the things we ended up designing was a seating arrangement called festival seating. Festival seating is highlighted mainly by how flexible it really is, in that these seats here on the bottom, approximately 200 seats, are convertible so that they can actually be moved out of the theater space, stored underneath the stage, and tables could be moved in, for example, and we could have a dinner theater. They could also be moved onto the stage. This is the front of the stage right here, and look into the center of the theater, and we could actually do theater in the round. This is our lobby or our atrium space. And I'll talk about that more later, but it is quickly becoming a third space, something that other events could be held in. In the next slide, you see on the bottom, you see a section of the theater. This is the set of seats that I was referring to earlier, but this also talks about the festival seating arrangement, where located here, the back seats have a very high rake, so that really there's not a bad seat in the house. Another aspect of this seating arrangement is how we've tried to take all of the seats and make them as close as possible to the stage to give a level of intimacy that is really good for performances. Now in the next slide, this really talks about why we're putting the building downtown. This is the notion about downtown revitalization. We're actually looking south now. And you can see the reflection of the courthouse in the glass. This talks about the kind of life that this building can bring downtown. The plaza out in front we're calling an art walk, but it also creates what I'm calling an avenue of interest between our building and the courthouse across the street that would bring a level of life to the area that would potentially raise interest going down towards the square and the businesses in the square. You can also see some elements of Barhydt Chapel, the stained glass on the inside of the lobby. We are also using some stone in benches that will be out in the plaza. Another design element that we were utilizing was the glass of the facade will actually reflect the courthouse as you're approaching the building to try to make it more integrated into the site. Another thing we're using to try to integrate the building into the site is similar brick and a similar 28-foot dimension that you find on the square in our building. At that, I think I'll hand it back over to Gary.
Thank you, Kelsey. And when I look at this picture, I think the artist has done really an incredible job of making this very lifelike. It's the type of picture I feel like I'd walk right into and engage in the activities of the Civic Center. So it really does represent the project very well. This Civic Center is going to be a hub of activity for the community and also a community crossroads. We can envision over a period of a year or more, maybe even up to 5 or 10 years, literally hundreds and ultimately thousands and thousands of people coming into and out of events and enjoying the Civic Center facility and the community as well. It's also going to be a magnet for information exchange. We can also see having small conferences and conventions or symposiums, in-services, seminars, where people can learn, where they can learn about their particular hobbies or even their occupation through special meetings. And it's going to be a place to showcase the community, both in terms of the great amount of talent in Fairfield and also the nice products that are manufactured by our industries and sold by our businesses. And there is a lot of diversity there too. This project will benefit our local businesses. The Civic Center will become a point of attraction in which people will be given a reason to visit downtown Fairfield. And this will promote traffic, and that will in turn create opportunity. The downtown area will begin to prosper because of this facility being located in that part of town. If we assume, for example, a craft fair, an art show, an antique car show, or something of that type of activity being held at the Civic Center, and let's say that hypothetically it attracts 750 visitors, and 50% of them spend a minimum of $100 in Fairfield. This could be through lodging, through eating out, dining, or it could be through spending money in the businesses downtown. That would generate $37,500 of revenue in just one community event. If you can multiply that over several events in the course of a year, or several over a course of 5-year and 10-year period, you can see where this is going to have an economic benefit. If we look at a pentium of benefits of this project, and then if we plug into the center of this pentium of benefits all of the people that will benefit from this type of facility, we can see that almost everyone from a small child, a 2 or 3-year-old child, going to a very entertaining event with their family at the Civic Center, all the way to a senior citizen being wheeled in on a wheelchair, they will be able to enjoy the wonderful attributes of this facility. One of the very important tasks that we conducted early in our investigatory process was to visit community auditoriums in other parts of the state. We also called some auditoriums. 2 in particular that we visited because they were close by were the Washington Auditorium and the Daly Auditorium in Oskaloosa. Both very nice facilities. This is an interior view of the side of the stage of Washington, and this is a view of the lobby area of the Daly Auditorium, and of course the exterior. We learned from these auditoriums. We learned what they would recommend that we do to make ours a great facility. We also learned what their mistakes were and what we could try to avoid in our experience. One very important thing we learned from these people was that their auditoriums are very highly thought of. When we asked prominent people in these communities what they thought of their auditorium, we heard very positive comments. Washington, Iowa, the person there said it's one of the first places that we show prospective businesses and citizens. That is economic development. Decorah said it takes a position right up there with our schools, our library, and our hospital. And Oskaloosa said, no doubt it's had a profound impact on our community's quality of life. And no matter where we called, whether it was these facilities, or to Pleasant Valley, to Eldridge, to Marshalltown, they all gave very glowing affirmations about their facilities. This project will definitely make a statement. It'll be the type of facility, the type of programming, where when somebody comes to visit you in Fairfield, you will probably drive them over to this facility and point out to them what a wonderful thing has been developed for your citizens. It'll reflect the values, the pride, the commitment, and the priorities that you have toward the welfare of your citizens. Usage is always a very important topic. Will this facility be used, or will it sit vacant? Our investigations realized something we were very pleased to hear, and that is typically over 80% of the time there is something going on in these facilities. And we're talking here about those that have an auditorium only. When we add our pavilion or our exhibition space, we can probably anticipate even more participation. The fact is, the issue becomes not how do we get enough people to use our facility, the issue becomes how do we properly schedule the tremendous demand there is to use it. We also brainstormed ways that the facility might be able to be used. And we found this, that the longer we sat, the more ideas we came up with, and we were really limited only by our capacity to imagine. The list can go on and on. In terms of utilization, again, we investigated to see what types of groups were out there in the Fairfield area that might have the capacity to use this facility. And what we found was that there were over 80 either individuals or groups that would have the potential to use a new civic center. And many of them have expressed a real sincere interest in this facility. The civic center will ultimately evolve to a board that becomes a managing or an operating board. They're currently a planning board. Eventually there'll be an implementation board, implementing a program, implementing their facility into the community, and eventually they'll have to oversee the operations. So we have anticipated what types of committees will need to be organized in the board. We can anticipate that a 12-member board would become a 14-member board. That then 2 members of that board would belong to each of 7 committees. And they together would work to effectively and efficiently govern that institution. Facility management is another very important issue, something we've looked at very carefully. We have determined that it will take a director of facility operations. And whether that is a woman or a man, it'll be someone to be there to coordinate scheduling, to execute a public relations plan, and to arrange for proper facility maintenance. All very important tasks. We know that some area auditoriums don't have a director of operations, and others have not only 1 and 2, but they're looking at 3 and 4 directors ultimately. So utilization is very positive, and directors are very important. And of course, another issue is, what are the expenses to operate this facility? Something we have given a great deal of thought to. We have determined that it will take approximately $156,000 per year to operate this facility. And we're talking about a first-year projected budget here. Ultimately, it will grow. We have to look seriously at starting out on a really lean budget to be sure we can function. So we've tried to be very conservative here. One thing we do know, and that is that we have based this upon a 25% annual utilization. And for every 2.5% we can increase that utilization, our budget can grow almost $9,000+ per year. If we're fortunate and develop, say, a 50% utilized facility, we'll be able to have more than enough funds to pay for the operations of this facility. Potential sources of income for a new civic center. Importantly here, we have one avenue, and that is to rent out space. Important to point out here is that fee rental will not pay for the total budget to operate the new civic center, but it'll help. We will have 4 small meeting rooms, a warming or catering kitchen, a whole pavilion, a performing arts auditorium, a substage or sub-auditorium room, and a whole civic center facility to rent out to generate revenue. In addition, we'll have endowment interest, organization memberships that can be sold, event sponsors to help bring in name groups, an annual fund drive, could be an annual banquet with a concert or something of that nature to help raise funds to operate and maintain the center, and foundation grants that we can reach out to for hardware types of items. We are indeed fortunate that we have a living trust that's been set up by a very visionary citizen, and the interest from that trust, which is going to exceed $1 million, will help to pick up the difference between what we can raise through rentals and what we need to meet budget. We're anticipating that with all of these things combined, we can generate over $157,000, and that's enough to meet our budget needs. In terms of rental of space, we have done some estimates or some approximations here, and we have to figure 2 years out. But to rent this facility, a couple of examples. A small meeting room, $35 per day. A whole pavilion, exhibition side, could be rented for $150 per day. The Performing Arts Auditorium for $150 per day. Or the whole Civic Center facility for $300 per day. And there are a few fees that will be associated with some of the larger rooms in order to help meet budget expenses. These figures are very reasonable, they're very competitive, and as time goes on, I'm sure they'll be adapted to meet needs. Project funding. We're calling this not a cost, but an investment for the Fairfield area. If we put this under the magnifying glass, we see it's going to cost $5.5 million to build and furnish the building, making it a turnkey operation. $500,000 to buy the property. Actually, we're running slightly less than that. $1.5 million for the endowment fund, and a total cost of the project really of about $7.5 million. The fact is, the endowment fund to us is not an option. It's something we really need to help meet budget needs. The cost of the property is something that has been addressed by the city of Fairfield. They have recognized the value of this project and want to become a part of making it happen. They're part of the partnership, and they've agreed to purchase the land to build the center. And I'll tell you at the end just exactly how we're doing in each of these categories. We are involved in a capital campaign currently to raise the necessary funding. Our campaign goals are to raise that $5.5 million to build the new facility. That's a pledge period of 3 to 5 years. And any extra funding that we raise will go into the endowment to help operate and maintain it. Very challenging, obviously. It's a lot of money to raise. It's also realistic and attainable if we can get enough citizens to recognize the value of the project and elevate it to a level of priority. We will be reaching out to many people to bring this project to fruition. We'll reach out to Fairfield citizens, local businesses and industries, artistically gifted residents, and there are an abundance of them, area residents who don't live in Fairfield but live around it and will enjoy using the facility, and special people such as loyal residents who have ties to Fairfield. Perhaps they graduated from college or high school, or their parents or family live here. And of course, parents of families who will also enjoy the facility events. The greatest challenge in any capital fund effort, and I speak from experience when I say this, is that if you get too many people that think someone else will do it, by hoping and or believing that other citizens will step up and take care of the project, then you get the wrong mentality developing. Instead, we need for many people that are caring and visionary to recognize the importance of their participation and become a part of supporting the project. In terms of the financing of the project, here is a gift needs chart in tiers that hypothetically illustrates what it would take to raise $5.5 million over a 3 to 5 year pledge period. We can see by looking at this chart, from the higher gifts to the lower gifts, that there are 3 main points. 1, this illustrates that it's going to take many people that want to become a part of financially supporting the project. Secondly, it's a time to point out that every gift, whether it's in the top categories or in the lower categories, is important and will be appreciated by the board and will ultimately help to bring the project to fruition. And a third very important thing that this illustrates is that it's going to take several entities, several people that are willing to step up and share at inspirational levels of giving in order for this to happen. There are, and you will find this in the materials that are given to you, all kinds of opportunities to give and to dedicate and memorialize. We have opportunities for people to name the entire facility. A $2 million gift would be able to name the facility. $1 million gifts would be able to name either the auditorium portion or the pavilion portion or even the art gallery or lobby area. There are a whole host of other room naming opportunities in some of the lower gifts. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, we find that we can even have people giving a gift of $500 and buying a brick with their family name on it and be a part of this capital campaign. You can buy a $1,000 seat in the auditorium, and these, of course, are all spread over a 5-year period. Any gift of $5,000 or more will place you on the Wall of Honor. So there are a lot of opportunities for giving, for helping to bring this about. We'd like to point out to all that this Jefferson County Civic Center Board is a 501c3 board, that they are fully qualified as a nonprofit charitable entity, and that means that all donors will receive favorable tax treatment for tax deductions and so forth. Everyone really should talk with their professional tax advisor, their attorney, their tax accountant, or whomever to help them in their decision. Our challenge, the general challenge that we're issuing to most people that watch this, is this. Respectfully, humbly, we're asking you to please look over the materials that we're going to leave with you. Read through them, think about them, digest them. We ask you to contemplate the extraordinary value of this project as we've shared it with you today. The value of this project to the entire Fairfield area. We ask you to examine the chart showing the dedication and naming opportunities and see where you can fit in to that chart in terms of your giving. And as you're looking to fit in there, we ask you stretch your thinking. And we ask you share as much as you're able to over a 5-year period. And ultimately, please return your pledge card so that we don't have to pester you about a card coming back. And that's whether you choose to give nothing or whether you choose to give a gift. Your support is going to be appreciated immensely by the board, who has worked so hard to present this to you. Our timeline would look like this. We have a goal of breaking ground sometime late summer of 2002, probably realistically between August of 2002 and November of 2002. And this hurdler represents us reaching our goal, crossing the finish line. Thus far, here's what we've accomplished in our project. First, we have our downtown site, and we are a part of downtown revitalization. Secondly, the city of Fairfield is behind the project, and they have agreed to purchase the property. Third, the Chamber of Commerce has endorsed the project, and they will locate their permanent offices in the new center. They'll provide a continual presence there. We've also incorporated elements of the Barhydt Chapel, and it'll be a prominent area in the lobby area. Everyone in the community will be very proud of it, and a good tribute to Parsons College. We're experiencing gift support at this time of over $1 million. In addition, we have presented a challenge way beyond $2 million to several entities in the community, and they're giving serious consideration to our challenges. We have a trust containing our future endowment fund that is going to be something over $1 million, possibly $1.25 up to $1.5 million. And we're in the process, the final stages of preparing a Vision Iowa / CAT, or Community Attraction and Tourism grant, approximating $750,000. So we have laid the foundation for a great deal, and the board has worked very hard, and we're hopeful that by sometime in the spring of 2002 we'll be completing our fundraising effort. And thank you for this opportunity to meet and share with you.